I think I'm already
pop
sharing,
out?
Jill.
You are.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So thank you, everyone. I'm Penny Lucas. I teach K-2 out at Trinity in Murrumburra, and I'm also the literacy leader. And today I just wanted to share with you how I use the low variance curriculum and so that CE have put out, and how I meld it with the Initial Lit storybook, and then the resources that I use to supplement that. So if we were to open the low variance curriculum, turn to term 3, and week 28 is this week. And we are looking at what is, required of us, I suppose, in week 28. This is all listed there very clearly, the tasks that we need to complete. So I'm going to come back to that in a little moment. I just want to show you a very simplified version of my timetable. I teach K and 1 Initial Lit, so it looks a little bit busier than this, but for this purpose, I've really started this year looking at a literacy block and an English block. And so in my literacy block, that's when I do Initial Lit on the mat and my Initial Lit activities to reinforce those new concepts. And I'm covering then, from the low variance curriculum, I'm covering word level reading and spelling, handwriting, because I do explicitly teach that during those activities, and morphology. So they are the parts of the low variance curriculum that are covered in that literacy block. And then I think of my English block as the block that covers the sentence level writing and grammar, my vocabulary and comprehension, and my paragraph and text level writing. So that's just how I've sort of divided it up, and I really, really like that literacy block and the English block. At Trinity, we also do spelling mastery, and I do a little bit more handwriting on a Friday. So that's that. Now, if we go back to this low variance curriculum, we're having a look here at the parts that are expected of us. So if we're looking at the writing instruction, we're looking at sentence level writing and grammar. We're looking at vocab and comprehension, and we're looking at this paragraph and text level writing. So they're the parts that are covered in my English block. And the vocab and comprehension, I do very much using the Initial Lit storybook, and I'm going to have a look at that a little bit later. But if we're looking at the writing instruction, it's sort of split into 4 lessons. So we've got here lesson 1, which is I can categorize sentences into past, present, and future tense. Lesson 2, I can generate a simple sentence that includes a when detail. Lesson 3 is modeled or guided, and it's about writing a topic sentence and concluding sentence, and then using the SPO to write a paragraph. And lesson 4 is the same, but moving on to guided or more independent. I can write a topic sentence and concluding sentence for an incomplete single paragraph outline, and then use the outline to write a paragraph. So I go to the low variance curriculum first, and I have a look at what it's asking, and then I go to the Initial Lit storybook, and I choose a text that is going to suit the writing tasks. So for week 28, there's a few places I could have pulled an Initial Lit storybook from. You can certainly use a persuasive text to cover that SPO, but we've moved on sort of down the book. So I've chosen storybook 18 that's called Dingo, and I've based that on that week 28 from the low variance curriculum. So this is sort of a basic structure of what my English block always looks like. On day 1, I'm really covering the comprehension part of the low variance curriculum. So I'm doing the before the story, the during the story, and the after the story. And then the Dingo book requires a summary of the characters in the beginning, in the middle, of the end. So that's covering my my reading of the story and part of my comprehension, concepts of print, those sorts of things. In day 2, I'm doing the talk about the story, where we're looking at the literal and the inferential comprehension questions. I reread the story. And again, that's a real focus on comprehension. I bring in a little bit of the vocab there, but don't really focus on that yet. So that's comprehension. And then I also move into my first writing lesson. So lesson 1, I can categorize sentences into past, present, and future tense at that sentence level. Day 3, I move pretty heavily into the vocab using the Initial Lit storybook and all the wonderful resources it has within there. And I'll show you a little bit how I do that in a moment. And then I move into lesson 2 of the sentence level writing, which is I can generate a simple sentence that includes a when detail. Day 4, I review my vocab words and I move into that text level writing. So lesson 3, the modeled and guided part with the topic sentence and concluding sentence. Day 5, I review my vocab words again, and I have quite a bit of time then to really concentrate on the independent writing task, hopefully, or some children might be still at the guided level. So that lesson 4, writing a topic sentence and concluding sentence and using that paragraph outline to write a paragraph. So that's just an overview of what my English block daily sort of planner, I suppose, looks like. So then that vocab and comprehension is covered in those first 3 days. And I talked about using the before the story, during the story, after the story, talk about the story. So all those first couple of sessions from the Initial Lit manual. And then with my vocab, look, I turn those words into slides. You certainly don't have to, but I use the manual, and I also use this fabulous text from Becca McCown that is bringing words to life, and just the explicit vocab instructional sequence that they recommend. So you've got your vocab from your Initial Lit storybook, and you've got this explicit vocabulary instructional sequence. And using all this information here, it sort of turns into slides that are very simple, and I'm sure lots of people are already doing this, but you know, where we've got some visuals, we've got some use of the word in context, we're looking at syllables, you might look at some etymology of the word, you definitely want to use a couple more visuals, perhaps some synonyms to really reinforce that new vocab word, these tier 2 words. And so the next word that's recommended was determined. I had a little video of a determined dog here. So this is all coming from the Initial Lit storybook, Protect. And then they move into using the word in context. They move into act it out. So these are fabulous resources from Initial Lit storybook that really follow that instructional sequence of the bringing words to life, really cementing these tier 2 vocab words in the students' sort of knowledge. So that all comes from there. You know, the which word fits, which is an excellent activity, again, just from the Initial Lit storybook. So that's the vocab part, and then the comprehension we've sort of discussed. Let's have a look at writing instruction. So we've got lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, and lesson 4. Now, lesson 1 is this week in week 28, asking, the task is I can categorize sentences into past, present, and future tense. Now, there wasn't actually a slide deck that I could find from Write to Learn or the Syntax Project that would cover this task. So I did have to create my own. And in week 26, we had looked at using ED to words. So I didn't have to reteach that. In week 27, we had looked at, so this is all from the low variance curriculum, looked at using shall and will for future tense. So I didn't have to reteach that, but I did review those skills quite heavily. And our school was involved in writing some of the explicit instruction lessons for the Syntax Project last year. And through that, I really learnt what I'm calling a beautiful recipe for explicit instruction slide decks. And I've said to Jill that I'm really willing to, you know, happy to share that recipe. But the formula that I follow is I always go to William Van Cleve's Writing Matters text. In there, he shows you what language to use to explain the skill, or, you know, for the concept development part. It's really great language. So then my first couple of slides, and then I will do some examples, some non-examples, some check for understanding slides. The other great thing is the hinge point question.
Trying to be good.
Somebody's just got their mic on. If you could just mute yourself, please. Thank you. The hinge point question, really, that's a really important slide that I really encourage you to have, where you've got usually multi-answer. So you're asking them to provide a multi-answer. And it's where the point in the lesson where you can either go on because the majority of your class have grasped that concept, or you need to do some re-explanation of that concept. Then some slides for I do, we do, you do, and some independent practice slides. So, this is what I created in a very quick nutshell. And then you can see my hinge point question there. So that's for lesson 1. Now for lesson 2, it says I can generate a simple sentence that includes a when detail. And there are just so many resources available for this skill and for many others. So these are the right to learn resources. You can see that it's sentence expansion, it's a writing revolution strategy, adding the when detail, or you can go to the syntax project, which recently they have uploaded all of their slides onto Oka Education. Here's a fabulous slide deck that you can just use straight away to fulfill that low variance curriculum task. So, I would really advise that you flip through it, make sure it suits your kids, your students. You might even want to pop in some dingo related activities in there in the you do or the independent practice, just to really reinforce the comprehension of the text. But just using those slide decks is a really good place to start, and it certainly addresses that sentence level writing I can from the low variance curriculum. So moving on to our text level writing tasks, so paragraph or text level, we've got lesson 3 and lesson 4. And in the initial lit manual, there are, they really have fabulous writing tasks that you might just need to supplement with a writing revolution strategy or with some right to learn syntax project, concept development. So I always go there first, see what I can use from that book and supplement it accordingly. So if we have a look, lesson 3 says, it's the first lesson in your text level paragraph writing, and it says, I can write a topic sentence and concluding sentence for an incomplete single paragraph outline, then use the outline to write a paragraph. So in all these wonderful Writing Revolution Right to Learn resources, you can see there's lots of slide decks that you can choose from to address this I can. So, they look like this. And you can just slot them in. You can change them to be a little bit more dingo context if you want to really reinforce the comprehension of that text. So that's lesson 3. This is a fabulous activity from the manual. If you have a look on the left-hand side, boom, there are your supporting details for your SPOs. So the task is asking the students and you to write a topic sentence and concluding sentence. Well, your supporting details are all there. So this is on day 4, usually on a Thursday. You might use as many of these to fulfill that lesson 3 as you like. So again, there's the lesson 3. Here's the SPO outline from the Writing Revolution. I've just copied and pasted those supporting details from back here. And with your class, you write a topic sentence, you write a concluding sentence. This is for the fact box appearance, but there's lots that you could choose from. So, I've sort of said there, maybe this is a we do, moving on to a you do. Then in lesson 4, that's when we're moving on to it being less guided and more independent. Again, you can use these slides from these slide decks provided on Teams to come up with your own sort of slide deck. So you might use the later slide decks where it's moving into the to the you do a little bit more. Pop those into your lesson 4 at the beginning, and then this is the sort of the end task, I suppose, where I will be asking my students to choose one fact box or more and to expand the SPO to create their own paragraph using full sentences and with a topic sentence and concluding sentence. So you can see there my little 1-star students who might need a bit more support. I do have a K-1 too, so it might be completely modelled. It might be still joint construction with the CSA. My base lesson looks like this. So writing an SBO given the template. So it's all filled out. We may have done that on the day before, and now those students are just having to fill that out using all the sort of the outline. Or you move on to the next level where the students are given just the supporting details. They need to come up with the topic sentence. They need to come up with the concluding sentence, and then they need to turn that into their whole paragraph, which will address that lesson 4 beautifully. I can create a topic sentence and concluding sentence for an incomplete single paragraph outline, and then use the outline to write a paragraph. So that's the you do there to address that. So in a nutshell, I guess, what do? Well, I go to the low variance curriculum first. I have a look at what it's asking of the students, and then I choose a suitable text from the initial texts. They're wonderfully rich resources. You've got your tier 2 vocab words picked out for you. You've got all the listed, comprehension questions there for you. So I go and choose a suitable text. Then I create those slides for my vocab words using that great instructional routine from Becca McCown. And then I choose, or hopefully choose, but sometimes you might have to create suitable slides for your sentence level task. Make sure you look at the Right to Learn resources, the Syntax Project, and the Storybook Manual. And then when we go to our text level or paragraph, again, it's choosing or creating suitable slides to complete that writing task. So that's me done, and I'm very happy to answer questions or, get in contact with Jill, and, I can certainly help if anybody would like me to elaborate on any more of those details. Thank you, Mel.